Alright, welcome to the holiday live stream. Last week I went over the previous lesson in the Getting Started guide on spreadsheet layout in the Calc main window, and I'm skipping the lesson on opening and importing a CSV file today because I actually have a video on that. So the video's here on my channel, which I can put in the chat for those who are joining live, and also put it into the video description for those who are watching the recording, which I assume most of you will, since you should be enjoying your holiday. Now, back to the lesson, saving spreadsheets. Tonight I'll go over these 4 sub lessons. There's saving files in different formats. There's exporting files and formulas as a CSV file. There's exporting contents as an image, which is pretty neat. So it's kind of like taking a screenshot of your spreadsheet if you wanted to, but instead of doing that and editing it in some like Microsoft Paint or image editor, you can just simply select what you want as image, like a table. So I'll get to that when I'm in that lesson. And then lastly, exporting a whole sheet as one page. Okay, so let's go to my example spreadsheet here. I mean, just some data, sales data that I made. And firstly, to save, it's pretty straightforward. We have save button in the toolbar, and if we click the down arrow, we could do save as, export, save a copy, and save as template, or save remote file. I won't go over each one of these, but just as a tip, when you're working on a new spreadsheet, it's always good to first just save it in the default LibreOffice Calc format. So the default format is actually .ods. So now if I go to save as, I'll show you a bunch of different options. Here for save as type, there are quite a bit to choose from. So the first one, which is selected by default, is great. This is ODF spreadsheet, which is what Calc uses. And actually ODS uses a lot of open document type formatting in there, which means it's very useful if you want to open up the spreadsheet in Excel. It should work. I think it'll also even work with those people who use Mac, at least Apple numbers in Mac. LibreOffice Calc also works in Mac as well, which I hope you try it out if you have a Mac. It's free. And then as well, like Google Sheets can open ODS files. It could even save. So if you create a new spreadsheet in Excel or Google Sheets, I know for a fact you can save it into ODS format, which is awesome because that can work somewhat pretty well within LibreOffice Calc. So that's the beauty of having an open document format. That's why I always recommend it. First, save it into ODS, and then now when we're in the save as, you can change, pick from a different selection of things. If for some reason like you want to save it in an old Excel 2003 format, you can give it a try. It'll probably give you a warning that it says it's probably not fully compatible, but you can always try it out. And if you happen to have an old Excel software, you can open it up and you'll probably see the data, but maybe some of the formatting might be off. This is the current Microsoft 365 Excel format. It's been that way since 2007. So it's Excel uses .xlsx and xltx. So if you want to share the spreadsheet with your friends who use Excel, or if you're using Excel at work, like as your employer provides Excel for you, then you can do that. Then I'll get to CSV, because in the lesson guide it talks about saving as CSV. For CSV, we see here it includes that file extension, and in the file name also adds in .csv for us. The lesson talks about automatic file name extension. It's good to just keep this checked by default, because it'll add in this CSV extension at the end for us. And when we choose save, it'll warn us, hey, this is not a standard file format, and it says don't show again. I'll unselect it, but you can keep it selected because you really just need to read this once. And that should be good enough. That's just saying use the default ODF, which I recommend too as well. The reason is that if you don't first save it as ODF and you save it first as a CSV or first as a Excel file, you actually can't open it back up as a ODS file because it's not saved as ODS yet. And Calc works best using ODS, so that's why it's good to have a ODS as sort of, if you think of it as like the master copy that you can do edits, you can add to it, and etc. When you want to save into a different file format, think of that as exporting your data into a different format, which then is useful for some other software or some websites, etc. But for the main crux of everything you're doing in Calc, like data analysis, making charts and whatever, it's just best to use a default ODF file format. Okay, let's continue. So I'll click use text CSV file format. Now it gives a export text file dialog. So this let's see, this gives us some options. So we're kind of forced to choose some. For character set, I recommend UTF-8. This is Unicode. It's fairly standard and it works across a wide array of computers and laptops, from Linux, Windows, Mac, and mobile phones as well, Android, iOS. They all can use Unicode UTF-8. So I recommend that. If your default and you're familiar, used to a different character set, then feel free, because as you can see, we have options here for different languages. If you're used to working in Greek, for example, you can pick one of these. See, there's Greek Apple Macintosh or Greek Windows. There's all sorts of different character sets based on your default language you use on your system. And yeah, it just goes on. I just recommend to use UTF-8 if you don't have something specific in mind already. For field delimiter, because CSV, it stands for comma, separated values, usually comma is good, so you don't have to change it. Sometimes some systems or some companies prefer to use a different delimiter. So we have the semicolon or colon or tab or space, but comma is fairly standard, unless there's a reason not to use it, dictated by the company or client. String delimiter, this just means it's a quotation. It means if in a cell, like let's say here on my spreadsheet we have C5, Sri Lanka is 2 words. So in a CSV, it will wrap that with quotation marks around it to preserve the spacing in between. There are some other options here, such as save cell formulas. So if you have formulas on your sheet, in my sheet here, in my tab, I actually don't have formulas, but if I had a sum formula or some sort of average or some sort of mathematical formula or any function, you can choose to save the formula as well. So instead of like the value, it'll display the value. Let's say I did some sum here and let's say it's like 2000 something. Instead of saving the 2000 value, I'll save whatever the formula is as if it was straight from the formula bar. And fixed column width, that usually you just ignore it. Unless you have a specific reason to do it, just leave it blank, and then I'll click OK. Then here it gives a warning, which is important because I have 4 sheets here in my spreadsheet. It's saying only the active sheet, so only my June sales sheet was saved into CSV. And so, which means if we wanted to save the other sheets from sheet 1, 2, and 3 into CSV, I just repeat this process by clicking into the sheet and then save as. Or if I kind of wanted to, I can combine the tables from my other sheets into one master sheet, and then I can export it into CSV, so it'll be done one fell swoop. But anyway, I'll click OK. So now that's saved, I'll open it up in Notepad just to confirm how it looks like. So here is a CSV file I just created, and we see it has all the data from my table. So that's how it looks like. And there we go, we're done with that. Let's go on now, continue with the lesson. Alright, now we're going to exporting contents as an image. So this is pretty cool because I usually like to take screenshots and then I'll crop it down to what I want, and then I'll either save it as an image, because sometimes I want to put it in an email, right? Or I want to put it in a document. But there is an easier way, or I guess that's subjective. But so here I'll just select half the table. I'll pretend I just want the first half of the table basically, or however many rows I want. So if we go to we can go to File and then Export. Then here it actually gives us a default file type as Webp image. Webp, it's pretty good. It's a fairly newer image file type, but the nice thing is it saves a lot of disk space. It's much smaller in file size, generally speaking, compared to PNG or sometimes even JPEG, because we're just basically trying to create an image of a spreadsheet. There's not a lot of visual, let's say, complexity in a spreadsheet. It's just looks like flat with numbers and some boxes around it. So anyway, let's try JPEG because most people are familiar with that. I have to click save. Here it gives JPEG options dialog. The default is good enough. Here in the information, it does nicely give us a little bit of the estimated file size. It says it'll be 21 kilobytes. If I increase the quality, let's see if that changes. Yeah, so I could do it at 100 quality, and then it's 59.7 kilobytes. It was at 75 before, so it can go up twofold or more depending on the quality I want. Again, I'm just saving a table where it's like black and white. There's not a lot of visual complexity there, so even if I make it smaller, like quality of 40, it'll still be pretty small. I'll put it at 50 just to see. So 15.7 kilobytes. I click OK. Now let's see what I have. How do I open this up? I'll open it in Paint. Okay, so this is what it looks like. It has from black T to white T, page 1. So let's see. Well, so there's an example of why didn't this work the way I wanted to. I wanted it to go from all the way down, like beginning, a sum to Jasmine. Well, so what happened is, it's not obvious, but it exported the first sheet. Here we go. This is my first sheet, which is a different table. If I show you again, now you can see how it matches. We have, yeah, it goes from black T to white T. So something's wrong, because why did it not export what I chose? Am I Michael with Office Nifty lying to you? Well, yes and no. So let me close. The problem was there was a setting that I needed to choose, which is selection. So right now it's not selected. If I select the selection checkbox, well, now you can guess what that means. That means it's going to export the selection I made. And I made the selection in sheet number 4 for June sales. So once I hit save, then we should see it save down to masala chai tea. So let's give that a try. For the quality, I'm on Webp. Let me change. Webp is nice. It's lossless. So okay. Let me change this back to JPEG. Okay, and then so the key is make sure selection is selected, because by default it will not select the selection checkbox for me. Okay, it says this already exists. I can overwrite my old picture. I'm fine with that. Quality, color depth. Okay, I can make this 8-bit. So right now it's saying 9 kilobytes. If I do 8-bit, it's 8 kilobytes. Okay, well, that's very small. So let's up this to 100 quality. Okay. Now, did that work? Let me see if I can open it up in Paint. Yes. Okay. There we go. See, much smaller. And it goes pretty much to what I selected. I mean, definitely included the row I chose. If I can zoom in more. Move it out of my head. So, oh, okay. I'm zoomed in, so it looks kind of blurry, right? The more I zoom in. That's the nature of JPEG. Even I saved it at 100%. So it looks okay at 100% zoom. It does have an extra white row on the bottom, but it's good enough. I mean, I'm in Paint, so if I wanted to, I can just crop it here. If I don't want to waste too much time here. I can make the height a little shorter. Let's see what happens. Okay, yeah, so I can make it even shorter, but this looks a little better. Then all I have to do is in Paint, I'd select this whole image, then I can paste it into some chat, paste it into email, usually that would work, you know, etc., etc., into a writer document or something like that. Okay, so that's the JPEG, but real quick, I'll export it as Webp, which is the default. And then here, it gives an estimated size of just 3.3 kilobytes. Like, wow, that's small. So that's the beauty of Webp, at least for spreadsheets, right? Now, if I see, how do I open Webp? Okay, here I open up in my Windows Photo app. Yeah, it looks very similar to the JPEG at 100% zoom. Now I can zoom in more. Now I'm zoomed in at 160%, and it's pretty clear. I zoom it at 200, and it's decent. Well, okay, now it's like 281. So it still looks better than JPEG in my opinion. And this is very much zoomed. It's 276% now. So I like Webp. If whatever program you're using it can view Webp, then I say go for it. And I think that's why Calc uses it as a default. Alright, so that's exporting content as an image. Now, exporting a whole sheet as one page. So here we go to, it's a different selection. It's under, well, file, still the same, but export as PDF. So let's take a look. File, export as PDF. Okay, so we have the PDF options. All right, and then the key selection or option to choose here is whole sheet export under the structure. And one thing that's a little tricky is when doing this with multiple sheets, and I'll show you what I mean. It's similar to how when I export as image, you know, there was a selection to choose, but here it's not as straightforward. So even though right now in the range I picked selection selected sheets, let's see what happens if I click export. I'll name this as 4 to indicate sheet number 4. And then I'll try and open up. Okay, so I have a PDF, which is good. And then I'll open up in Firefox. So this is how it is, even though I only want my 4th tab in my spreadsheet. It exported, basically all of them. So if we go back to export as PDF, it kind of didn't work as well as I liked it to. So then the next logical choice is, hey, what if I choose pages? And I assume, oh, if page 4 should, correspond with tab number 4, right? Well, that depends, because in my existing export, I mean, it does actually have a nice, I guess this is a table of contents or something for my PDF. And so I can jump to it, which is down here. So I assume if I choose page 4, it'll just give me my tab number 4. But in this scenario where maybe a previous sheet, like maybe the first or second one, if it's extra long and it takes more than 1 page or 2, just putting in page 4 doesn't really get me tab number 4. That might actually just get me something in tab 3, So it really depends on how long are the previous tabs when they're printed out. So that's the tricky thing when trying to export, I guess just one tab. Now before I hit export, the workaround that I want to share is probably works better if I want June sales, right, and I want to export to PDF, I can just go move my tab order. So now June sales is my first tab. And I'll save, and it says only the active sheet. Okay. So right now I'm actually working in CSV, which goes against what I was saying earlier. Is it's best to work your spreadsheet in ODS, and that's because now I'm working in a CSV file, so to speak, and CSV doesn't have an idea of multiple tabs, and so when I save it, it's basically just saving my first tab under the file name of the Curious Cup Tea Shop.csv. So the best thing is I go back to the ODS file, which I'll open up now, and then now I can work with it. Okay, so I move my June sales tab to the first, where I click save, and in fact I can close my CSV file, and then I'll try to export as PDF, and let's try page 1. Whole sheet is selected, and I click export. I'll give it a name of 1.pdf, and then let me try opening it now into Firefox. Click and drag. Okay, well, that didn't really narrow it down for me. It still looks like it got all 4 tabs for me. So that wasn't exactly what I had hoped for. Why was that? Let me see. Maybe if I don't do a whole sheet export. Let's give that a try. Maybe whole sheet export is why it's giving me everything, which it would make sense if that was the case. I'm testing it out live. There it is. Okay. So basically in the lesson. So whole sheet export. I think their wording is not, it could be a little bit confusing, at least it did for me. So probably for you and others. So an entire sheet, I think they're referring to basically all the tabs. So this whole file is one calc sheet. My file has 4 tabs in there. And so it makes sense. If I do a whole sheet export, it gives me all the tabs, which it's useful to sometimes to have in PDF. It's very shareable. You know, PDF is shareable. It's very viewable. Anyone can view PDFs on their phones. You know, different systems. And PDFs, like, they can't just change some values in some tables in a spreadsheet. So PDF is awesome for viewing and sharing stuff, but doing spreadsheet related tasks, obviously, you know, we do that in Calc in the ODS file format. Okay, so basically, if I just tried it out and I showed you that if we just want to export one tab, then it's pretty simple. Just make sure don't select whole sheet export. If we want all the tabs, then yes, do select whole sheet export. And there we go. Okay, that concludes this lesson on saving spreadsheets on this awesome holiday live stream in 2025. And happy holidays for those who are celebrating. If not, you know, New Year's is coming up, so that's good too. And if you have any questions about this lesson or using Calc, I want to help you guys out. Sign up to get help from me directly. Either you're, you know, want to fix some spreadsheet or you have just questions. I'm happy to show you how it's done, do some tutoring, or, you know, consult on how to make things faster for you or get things working with other apps. Just let me know. With that, have a good night.